A new trial proves that MDMA is effective in treating PTSD, which just means stress, ongoing stress as a result of trauma. How does this new discovery affect the way that we treat mental health conditions in general? And will the pharmaceutical industry allow these breakthroughs out into society where they could potentially diminish their profits?
A new study published in Nature Medicine shows that for people suffering with severe PTSD, the benefit of talk therapy could be greatly improved with an unlikely drug, MDMA, popularly known as ecstasy.
It's weird that when that drug, MDMA, ecstasy, entered the culture, it created this sort of state of euphoria. And with a more open mind towards drugs, a more sensible attitude, i.e. beyond recreation and into medication, into solutions and into how our psyches could benefit from them, you can see that it potentially could, through therapeutic use, alter our psychic state positively.
They found that MDMA acts as a central nervous system stimulant, increasing chemicals like serotonin and oxytocin in the brain, often called happy or love chemicals, while also decreasing activity in the amygdala, the part of the brain that processes fear.
I like it when people break down neurological function in a way that's easy for us to understand. In this article it says that MDMA appears to work in part by calming the amygdala, the part of the brain which acts as a smoke alarm, telling the body to prepare for danger.
The authors hope it will lead to an FDA-approved treatment for PTSD by 2023.
It's always a little bit of concern, isn't there, when you hear, amidst all these acronyms, FDA. Once you hear the Food and Drug Agency might be involved, I always gulp and gasp a little, like, oh no, does that mean that it's going to be sort of altered, monitored? Of course it means it's going to be used for profit. All these agencies, which are sort of presented as independent, are of course partners to the industries that they're supposed to be monitoring, in this case the pharmaceutical industry and more broadly the food industry. So let's break down this trial a little more and see what it might mean for us. So PTSD is obviously post-traumatic stress disorder, usually the result of a distressing or frightening event or longer-term series of events or experiences, and it can be very difficult to treat. The trial in question proved that 88% of people had a meaningful reduction in symptoms and 67% no longer qualified for a PTSD diagnosis after 18 weeks and 3 sessions of MDMA-assisted therapy. 67% no longer qualifying for a PTSD diagnosis is a way of saying they were healed, they were better. And know that it's only 3 sessions with the MDMA. You take it for a little while, you alter your direction, such as you would with other medical conditions, and then you stop with that therapy. That's really heartening and exciting, and it shows that we have a blinkered attitude towards substances, perhaps in some part due to the war on drugs, which was always a stupid war.
We must wage what I have called total war against public enemy number 1 in the United States, the problem of dangerous drugs.
Dear old Richard Nixon, we must wage what I have called total war on public enemy number 1. He's really pleased with his little phrase. He wants to remind you, even while he's being president on the television, that he was the person that came up with that phrase. Well, that drug war, well done. You've killed thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. Even as recently as the last 5-10 years, the opioid crisis in America has killed, I think, 800,000 people. It's a very, very irresponsible, stupid attitude to have towards really what's could be regarded as people treating their own mental illnesses. And speaking from a position of some authority on that matter, I now recognise that my own drug use was an attempt to do what these trials are doing. Hold on a minute, my amygdala's kicking off, the smoke alarm just won't shut up. Beep, 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 beep. Really, when you regard these matters as medical and health issues as opposed to criminal judicial, it opens up all sorts of solutions. Unless, of course, what you want to do is bang people up in prison because the jails are privatised, and it also creates all sorts of free or cheap labour. You know what I mean? So it's an interesting lens to regard culture through the drug war, because it shows who's the enemy.
Scott Ostrom is a Marine veteran. He served 4 years and suffered from PTSD since his second deployment in Iraq in 2007.
I think a lot of combat veterans just think about suicide on a daily basis.
Isn't it interesting that becoming suicidal, as this veteran describes, is an ordinary experience for anyone that's been involved in that? And what a mad thing to institutionalize, creating loads of suicidal folk as a result of like political aims. It shows really that our faith-based systems such as nation and the kind of complexes that build up around nation and commerce, specifically military-industrial complex, have as collateral damage, not to mention the kind of collateral damage seen abroad, the well-being of the people required to participate in those wars.
He had debilitating nightmares.
I was afraid, you know? I was afraid and I was really angry.
I feel ridiculous talking about my own mental health when contrasting it with people that have been through such obvious and recognisable trauma as a war veteran. But as a person with mental health issues and in recovery from addiction, those kind of thoughts are present with me relatively frequently. As a father and a family man and as a person in recovery, I do have support and systems for dealing with them, but like I can only imagine what people that are, you know, combat veterans are going through, because me, with the trauma of just a life as an ordinary citizen, those kind of ideas are you know, still present with me. I'm a person in recovery, as I keep bloody saying, so MDMA, you know, that's complex for me, as is psilocybin. We've done videos elsewhere about how psilocybin has been proven to reduce depression and be at least as effective as prescribed drugs for depression. You can have a look at that video, the link's in the description. And here, this is another substance that could be beneficial in a controlled, therapeutic way. Many of you, I suppose, will be questioning this. If the mainstream media are talking about it, if the FDA are approving it, what does that mean? Well, it means it's likely to, on some level, be profitable. You only need to look at the news to see the relationship between the mainstream media, the pharmaceutical industry, and the government, and how that affects profit and policy on a daily basis, and the complications that come about from that in prevalent and obvious news stories that are around at the moment.
That all changed when he participated in the clinical trials for a new PTSD treatment, MDMA-assisted therapy.
It was the catalyst for me to actually like start living again. It's amazing what this medicine has the potential to do. It's really incredible.
I suppose one very positive thing that's coming from this news story is we're addressing mental health in a potentially different way, but I suppose also we have to recognise that it always has to go through the filter of media, the filter of commerce, the filter of commodification. And we don't address that, you know, wars and modern life are causing mental health disorders. That's not to make a moral evaluation on those things, although it seems pretty obvious that wars and many aspects of modern civilization are kind of causing problems. It's like, we're not evolved to live like this. And if you create a society that is not a reflection of what we're evolved to live with, you have to sort of drug yourself with food and television and sex and illicit drugs and all sorts of things simply to cope with the fact that you're in conditions that you're not evolved for. Another thing you could do, by the way, is live in a different system. Oh no, hold on, that would never work.
Dr. Sessa was leading an MDMA-assisted therapy trial. He says the biggest hurdle now is public perception.
I'm going to give the war on drugs a massive amount of credit for one thing, for very, very successfully poisoning the minds of 50 years worth of intelligent, erudite people to have an instinctive knee-jerk reaction that if a drug is used recreationally, it is therefore dangerous and useless and addictive and couldn't have any possible positive benefits. That is just wrong.
What I learned from this story is that between the government, the pharmaceutical industry and the media, attitudes are created that are not beneficial to ordinary people. Problems are created to generate profit. Truth is ignored and even suppressed in order to continue to create profit. And the well-being and welfare of ordinary people is seldom a priority when it comes to making policy. This story has so much in it. The upshot is that MDMA responsibly used could be good for mental health. That seems to be scientifically proven. Governments are slow to respond to truth. Media carry false narratives forward in order to continue to repress truth and benefit certain institutions. And I suppose more than ever, we see again and again that if you want to understand reality, you have to draw information from a variety of sources, do your own research, stay awake and open, and don't trust the media. And just because, you know, like the people in positions of authority say something is bad for you, that don't necessarily make it so. And just because they say something's good for you, that don't necessarily make it so. Another story that demonstrates that many of the pillars that make up our establishment are determined to send us backwards instead of allowing us to progress. MDMA was already being researched as a potential mental health health solution long before it was a recreational drug. That's how it leaked out into the world and the marketplace. If we had an aware, awake, progressive culture that looked upon our welfare as its priority, when these kind of discoveries were made, they would be responsibly released. The opportunities to take them responsibly and therapeutically would be afforded to people, and we could create a culture together that is built upon our mutual advance, not on continually looking for opportunities for profit for already powerful institutions. If you like this video, please press like. Put some comments below, we read them. If you want to see me having hour-long conversations with deep and clever people, go over to Luminary and get my podcast, Under the Skin. It's available on Apple. Also there, I do meditation videos once a week, so you don't need to take MDMA illegally. You can start to deal with your psyche responsibly right away. Also my side channel, Awakening. There are free videos every single week, 3 times a week, on meditation, breath work, important and innovative thinkers in the space of well-being. Also have a look at my Our Little Lives Shakespeare video. There's a link in the description for that too. Sign up to my mailing list and then I can keep you informed with everything without doing these long spiels at the end of every single video. Thanks for watching.